Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how we work with functions with arguments, but has no return value. So we look at the definitions here. When a function has an argument, it receives data coming from the calling function, but it does not return any value at all. So to declare it, I have here the function declaration wherein we start with void, followed by the function name, and then the argument. So arguments will be placed here inside the open and close parentheses. Next is when we call the function, you start with the function name and then supply the given arguments or parameters needed by the program to compute something. And then last is when we like to define it, so we start with the data type, start with void, followed by the function name, and then here are the list of arguments. Then this is the body of the statement. Okay, so let's continue with our program, that is to compute for the simple interest. Okay, so this is our program. So let's start with our code here. So first thing is we need to start with our prototype. Okay, so let's start with void, which is our data type, return value. So simple interest, and then here you need to specify the return value or the type of data that will be used. So let's say we have here float. Okay, float, and then float. Okay, what does it mean? So float, these are the data type that when we ask the user, when we supply the data, so the function will be expecting that it will return, or it will be accepting, number one, 3 arguments, since we specify here 3, and the type of data that will be supplied are all float data types. Okay, later I'll show you how it works. Next is, let's prompt the user now to enter the data set we need. So let's first declare a variable float, p for the principal, rate, and then time. Okay, next is, let us now prompt the user, cout, enter principal, rate, and time. Okay, there. Next is we input now the value cin principal, rate, and then time. Okay, next thing to do is let's call now the function. Okay, we don't have the function yet, but let's call this one. So let's call this simple interest, and then since it requires us to supply 3 arguments, we will pass in the values p, r, and t. Okay, so p, r, t are the arguments needed by this function in order for us to compute the simple interest. After that, okay, so we have this as our main value. Let's now create our function definition or our function. So let me copy this. Okay, now I'll remove the semicolon. So we start with void. This is the function name. Then float. So it means that the function will be receiving 3 arguments. So the first item here will receive our principal. This will receive our rate, and then this will receive our time. So you need to specify here the variables. You could also specify here the variables, but in some instances you could use just the data type, or if I copy this, another way for us to prototype it is like this. You could specify already p, r, and then t. Okay, this is also acceptable. Let me comment this. So let's try this option first. After that, let's have the open and close curly brace. So inside this one is we're going to compute for the simple interest. So I have your float simple interest. So that's our data type. This will hold our answer. So simple interest is equals to, let's multiply our principal, rate, and then time, divided it by 100, and then let's print out our answer we're in. Simple interest is, okay, and then let's display out our simple interest variable. Okay, so this is our code. Let's run our program. Let's test there are problems. Okay, so it's prompting us to enter now our principal, rate, and time. So let's have here principal is 1,000, 6, and then 4. So this is our answer, which computes for the simple interest. So another approach that I mentioned in prototyping is this one. So let's use the second approach. Okay, it's the same thing. Okay, so when we run our program again, we are passing the values. So 6,000, 10, and then 4. Then this is the interest. Okay, so let's review. This is the prototyping section. You need to prototype the function. Now you have two options, whether you could specify already. The first option here is that you could specify just the data type. Take note that float, float, float here are the number of arguments that you need to pass. So if in case your program just needs to pass 2 arguments, you just type it here 2. But in this program, we require to have to pass in 3 arguments. Next is another way for us to prototype is that you could specify already the variables that you will use. So let's say the first one will be having a rate, principal. The second one will have the rate, and then the last one is the time. Okay. Next is this line here is we supply the value or the arguments or parameters needed by the simple interest function. So as you can see here, we have our function, and it's require us to supply 3 arguments. In this way, we're supplying PRT. Now, once we call the function, the value of P here will be passed to this first argument, R will be passed to the second argument, T will be passed to the third argument, and then the data that we pass will be used by the function. Okay? So whatever the function that be, but the data will be used by the function here. Okay, so this is our program that demonstrates the use of a function that requires an argument but no return value. Okay, so I hope you like the program. Thank you for watching. Bye.